In various ways I've already alluded to, the government's war program elicits resistance, and resistance is problematic for the state. If resistance gets out of hand, as the government feared it was getting in World War I especially, it is inclined to simply crack down on the ways in which resistance is expressed. And that includes through speech, through publication, through the conduct of meetings, and through all sorts of exhortation that resistors may make to keep other people from helping out with the war program, whether by entering the Army or by lending money to the government or in any other way. The government simply will not tolerate this kind of resistance when it's waging a major war. And so it cracks down on it. So there are suppressions of rights of free speech, the press, petition for redress of grievances, and all the rest of those things that people think are guaranteed by the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. They're not. The Constitution is, and even in normal times, worth precious little, and during a major war, it isn't worth a damn thing. In my book, Crisis in Leviathan, I spend quite a bit of time showing how the Supreme Court ruled on various challenges to government actions during the world wars. And the short answer is that in practically every case, in fact, in every case of any consequence, it ruled in favor of the government's actions. However unconstitutional on the face of them they were. So there was no protection on that stage. The government also tries to persuade people that everything it's doing is for the good, so it engages in massive propaganda efforts. In World War I, it elicited the assistance of celebrities of all kinds, entertainers, movie actors, popular people in the arts, and it got them to go out and harangue people on the streets of cities, giving patriotic speeches for 3 minutes. They were called the 3-minute men. But it also censored the press, shut down hundreds of newspapers, forbade the circulation of newspapers, in some cases through the mail, which in those days many newspapers were sent through the mail, particularly foreign language newspapers that were abundant in those days. The country was full of recent immigrants from many, many parts of Europe especially, and they'd all developed news media of their own, and the government just clamped down on all these things and imposed a rule that before they could publish anything, they had to translate it into English and get the approval of the government censor. Well, that basically raised costs so high and created such delays that it put many of these publications out of business entirely, which was the government's objective all along. What the government can't understand, it doesn't want to exist. In all cases, the government's police apparatus was bulked up. In World War II, the number of FBI special agents was increased 4 or 5-fold, and they were investigating everybody, including President Roosevelt's personal political opponents. So they arrested a lot of people, prosecuted people, and even deported hundreds and hundreds of people during World War I. Many of the deportees were sent back to places they knew nothing about. You know, some of them had been brought from the Russian Empire as children, and so now they're sent back to Russia in 1918, and some of them didn't even speak Russian, knew nothing about Russia. This was certainly cruel and unusual to these people. Naturally, the government floods the country with informants. It tries to make everybody spy on and report to everybody else. If some of these things are starting to sound familiar, there's a reason for that. because since 2001, the government has ramped up its activities in all these ways, particularly of surveillance, spying, cultivation of informants, and other ways of infringing on our liberties. And at the same time that the government wants to know everything about the people, it wants the people to know nothing about it. So there's always this asymmetric relationship between the government's efforts to see all and be seen by none.